turn my microphone on so everybody can hear me. Call the meeting to order. It is now 6 o'clock. Welcome all those in the audience. There are agendas located on the table outside of the double doors. This is a public meeting for which public notice has been provided. The proceedings are being televised and recorded and can be viewed either on cable channel 192 or online on the City of Casper's YouTube channel. First, I'd like to read some informational statements about the meeting. Use of cellular telephones is not permitted, and such telephones shall be turned off or otherwise silenced during the Planning and Zoning meeting. When speaking to the Planning and Zoning Commission, please clearly state your name and address. Keep your remarks pertinent to the issue being considered by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Do not repeat the same statements that were made by a previous speaker. Speak to the Planning and Zoning Commission as you would like to be spoken to. Do not address applicants or other audience members directly. Make your comments at the podium and directed to the chairperson and Planning and Zoning Commission. I'd like to remind everyone present that the City of Casper Planning and Zoning Commission is a volunteer body composed of members of the Casper community and appointed by the Casper City Council. The Commission acts as a quasi-judicial panel, making final decisions on some items and recommendations to the City Council on others as dictated by law. Commission may only consider evidence about any case as it relates to existing law. Commission cannot make or change planning or zoning laws, regulations, policies, or guidelines. We have all commissioners present except for Commissioner Hall, who is not with us today. Next item on the agenda this evening is consideration of the minutes from the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting held on March 29th, 2023. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes of March 9th?
Mr. Chairman, I'll make motion we approve the minutes.
Okay.
From the previous meeting.
So moved by Commissioner Wengeter.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Commissioner Bates. Any discussion? Nope. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion carries.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda this evening are the scheduled public hearings. Before we get started, just a reminder to all of this evening's applicants that it takes 4 affirmative votes to pass any item, regardless of the number of commissioners present. If any applicants would like to postpone their case in anticipation of the possibility of more commissioners being present next month, then I would ask you to speak up when your case is announced. Case number 1, the first public hearing tonight will be for consideration of case CUP 373-2023 and CUP 351-2023 concerning 2 conditional use permits for 1515 South Elm. The first is to allow for wall heights in excess of 12 foot on an existing detached garage, and the second is to convert said detached garage into an accessory dwelling unit. The applicants are Pat and Vicki Hughes. Are the applicants present, and do you wish to proceed?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Can we please get a staff's report at this time?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Pat and Vicki Hughes have applied for 2 conditional use permits for their property located at 1515 South Elm Street. The first conditional use permit is a request to construct an accessory structure with an exterior wall height greater than 12 feet. The second conditional use permit is a request to allow an accessory dwelling unit in an R2 1-unit residential zoning district. Each conditional use permit should be analyzed and voted on independently. Regarding CUP 373, which is the wall height conditional use, according to the application, the roof of the existing detached structure is proposed to be removed and the height of the building increased to accommodate a second floor apartment. The existing garage is a single-story structure. The applicants are proposing that the modified structure be constructed with a sloped shed-type roof with a maximum wall height of 25 feet. Per Section 1712-121G of the Municipal Code, a conditional use permit is required for any structure with a wall height exceeding 12 feet. Further, Section 1712-120F6 requires that accessory buildings must be similar in design, exterior residential materials, and roof pitch to the principal and/or surrounding residential neighborhood buildings. Vertical metal siding is expressly prohibited. No information has been provided by the applicant as to the proposed exterior materials. In a review of the city's records, only one similar conditional use permit has been granted within 300 feet of the subject property. In 2009, a conditional use permit was granted for an accessory building with an exterior wall height of 14 feet located at 1512 South Ash Street, which is directly behind the subject property. In reviewing aerial photographs, it doesn't appear that there's any sloped shed roof type structures in the immediate area, but of course that's not a perfect analysis. Conditional use permit CUP 351 for the accessory dwelling unit. In a companion request, the applicants are requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow an accessory dwelling unit in an R2 district. Section 172.030 lists accessory dwelling units as requiring a conditional use in the R2 district. According to the application, the property has 5 off-street parking spaces available, and a minimum of 2 parking spaces is required for each dwelling unit according to code. Accessory dwellings were added to the zoning code in the recent past in order to address several issues. Primarily, the concept was implemented in recognition of the changing demographics and an aging population. The intent was to allow for a concept known as aging in place. Aging in place often requires the services of on-site caretakers or semi-independent mother-in-law type units. Another situation that has warranted an accessory dwelling unit previously is to accommodate disabled family members that wish to live somewhat independently but require occasional care. The secondary benefit of allowing accessory dwelling units as supported by the comprehensive land use plan is to increase the density of development and better utilize developable land in the city, thereby discouraging sprawl. Any zoning district that allows multi-unit residential also allows accessory dwelling units by right without the need for a conditional use permit. The city has 2 existing single-family only residential districts, which are R1 and R2. R1 does not allow accessory dwelling units, and R2 does only as a conditional use permit. Section 1732.010, the municipal code, provides the intent and purpose of the R2 residential zoning district. And I'll go ahead and read what that says right out of the code. The purpose of the R2 district is to establish and maintain a conventional, site-built, single-family and manufactured housing residential neighborhood characterized by moderate-sized lots with adequate space provided for openness, landscaping, and play. The district shall be free from other uses except those that are compatible with this purpose. The reasoning for requiring the approval of an accessory dwelling unit in the R2 district as a conditional use permit is to ensure that the purpose and intent of the district is not being circumvented and to allow for special situations when warranted. Neighborhood compatibility and land use impact should always be the primary considerations when reviewing conditional use requests. The guidance provided by the municipal code, listed under the code compliance section of the staff report, honors the expectations of the neighborhood property owners and attempts to balance the property rights and desires of the applicants who have unique needs. The Planning and Zoning Commission's task is to allow for a neighborhood discourse on the proposal and to make a decision based on the guidance provided by the municipal code and adopted plans and policies. As stated previously, both requested conditional use permits require their own analysis and legal findings and will be voted on separately. Staff has included sample motions for the Commission's use if you'd like at the end of the staff report. I won't read those, but there's one to approve and one to deny that you can use as a basis to help you with that. We do need to have findings with all conditional use permits. Regarding CUP 373, the height conditional use permit, staff has provided one recommended condition of approval, and the other conditional use permit, number 351, which is the accessory dwelling unit, staff has provided 2 recommended conditions. Staff did receive 1 letter of opposition, which came in after the staff report was written, but we have uploaded it to your packets, and I have 6 exhibits to enter into the record. A is the conditional use permit application. B, public notice sent to the property owners within 300 feet. C, legal notice sent to the Star Tribune. D, photo of the public notice sign on the property. E, letter of opposition received via email on 4/10/2023 from the property owners at 1550 South Elm. And F, memo to the chairperson and members of the Planning and Zoning Commission. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you for the report, and the exhibits are noted. Does anyone on the commission have any preliminary questions for the staff about the report? Nobody? Okay. Next, I would ask that the applicant and/or their authorized representatives come forward to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and explain your application to the commission.
Pat Hughes, 1515 South Elm Street. When we purchased our house in 1994, the insurance company would not insure the roofing on the roof of the garage, which is the cold storage. The previous owner had also cut a stairway into the middle of the garage, making it impossible to park a car in the garage. So I removed the stairs right away, and we've used the cold storage over the years. The garage the cold storage is somewhat unusable, although it's completely full right now. I envisioned rebuilding the cold storage into a cold storage multi-purpose, maybe playroom above the garage. I have lived around mother-in-law suites, granny flats, man caves for years. I worked on close to 5,000 houses in Casper. 30 to 50 of them had what we would consider ADUs. These ADUs, or granny flats, mother-in-law suites, just keep popping up. I have a question for you in the building code enforcement business. Does a new home builder have to apply for a conditional use permit when he puts in a second kitchen and a laundry room and a bedroom with an exterior entrance? Does he have to apply for a conditional use permit for that house? You know, they're built in R2 zoning. How can they do that as a new house? There's tons of those out there. 2.5 years ago, I felt like I had just the perfect storm to repair the roof on my garage. I had left a few unneeded repairs go for 5 years or more, just kind of forcing myself to fix the roof. I had always intended to build the garage roof so the cold storage would be more usable. I had given notice at my job, I consulted an engineer, I checked material cost, I checked with the credit union. At the time, they had a 10-year, 1% construction loan available. My framer friend was out of work for a few months. I had a big window order that I got stuck with, and so it was stored in my shop. I just didn't have any luck selling that order to anybody else. I figured I could use that in the construction. When I told my wife, Vicki, I was going to rebuild the garage, she agreed. All she wanted was a flat roof like the garage on 13th and Collins, a metal roof, and a mother-in-law apartment instead of a cold storage. I applied for a permit to rebuild the cold storage with the intention of turning it into ADU in the future. I felt like the building and planning departments overreacted in rejecting my plans. I've discussed it. They're just doing their job. And we have a big, I don't know, disagreement on language, maybe. Our height ordinance was written to control the uncontrolled building of garages, pole barns in backyards that was introduced in the late 80s and 90s with, you can go look at these metal buildings in people's backyards everywhere. I don't know if half of them were permitted. I have a tough time understanding the definition of roof height. My current top of the roof height is about 24 feet high. My soffits are 8 foot 6 inches high. The floor of my current cold storage is 9 foot. Per the wording of the ordinance, I have an existing 8 foot 6 roof height. Someone explained this to this old carpenter. I was told I didn't understand the intent of the ordinance. I requested that in writing, and no one ever did that. And that's about all I have to say on the roof height. The ADUs are becoming popular around the country, not for just in bigger cities especially. I encourage you all to Google Seattle ADUs and see what they're doing there. They have hired us like a reverse building inspector. They've had plans drawn up where people can get their plans approved in a month to build a mother-in-law suite. Their median house price is $900,000 right now. Their low-end rent for a one-bedroom apartment is $2,200. Last year they built more, or they had more permits for ADUs than they did for single family housing. I just popped a couple words out of the one, but they call it increasing density gently, building some missing middle housing, provide wider menu of living opportunities in neighborhoods dominated by single houses. For the relatives, for the aging population, people can't afford nursing homes anymore. It just makes sense to let these ADUs go. And everybody I talked to said, hey, you bought a single family house, that's all you get. Well, I don't know, I'll let you choose that. I'm just, thank you for your time.
Sir,
Yes.
we'll have some questions for you.
Sure.
There are some conditional uses in here per the definition of accessory dwelling units. Either the principal dwelling unit or the accessory dwelling unit must remain to be occupied by either the owner of the property or an immediate family member of the property owner. Are you aware of that condition?
Yes.
You're good with that?
That's what we plan to do.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay, and also, the permit must be exercised and work completed within 1 year from the date of issuance,
yes.
or it'll be void?
Otherwise,
Okay. All righty.
Is it from the date of issuance?
Staff, yes.
I'm assuming I still have to do a building permit or something.
Yeah,
Would it be from
from the date of the issuance.
permit or the building permit?
The 1 year starts at the issuance of the conditional use permit.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Any commissioners have questions, sir?
Mr. Chairman, I was just wondering, your neighbor, one of your neighbors across the street wrote a letter that he was opposed, and he said he had a conversation with you,
Yes.
and it doesn't say why he was opposed, at least.
Well, I talked to him and he said he lived a block further up on Spruce Street years ago and was turned down for a like a ADU or,
Yes.
so if he can't have one, nobody can have one.
Yeah. Well, I was just wondering why he,
Yeah, and.
what was the
Well,
reason?
he just asked me right away, he said, so you're planning on living in this, and your kids are gonna live in the front house? So there'll be more than one family there.
Sure.
I said, well, I consider us one family, but everybody else is two families.
So that's what I was gonna ask you, how you planned on using it. You will be living in the,
And when we discussed it the other day, my granddaughter ran out the door giggling, "We're gonna live in Grandma's house?"
other commissioners?
He asked two questions, and I didn't write them down, but I'm wondering if we can answer those two questions that he had. One of it was, he mentioned that the current roof is already 25 feet, but they have it as 8.5 or something like that. So can you?
Sure, I understand the confusion. The code is talking about wall height, so the wall extends to the soffit. So if the soffit on a peaked roof, we're not looking at the peak height of the structure, we're looking at the soffit and where the wall extends to. So again, this is anything over a 12-foot wall requires a conditional use permit. So given the type of roof that's on this building, the wall heights are larger than they would be on a peaked roof.
Do you understand that?
Somewhat. I look at these things all around town, and there's not many of them with a 12-foot height per I mean, most of them are not permitted.
Okay. And then you had that was your second question, and I don't remember the first question that you asked. And I apologize, I should have wrote it down.
Commissioner, was his question about new house construction with two kitchens and separate
Yes.
entrances?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, the code it's fairly, it's complex. It's kind of, you know it when you see it, but basically if it's a complete living area with everything you need, and I'm paraphrasing, everything you need to have a complete living area, kitchen, bathrooms, living space, all that, with a separate entrance, but it has to be separated from the main principal dwelling. So if you have to walk through the main dwelling to get to it, or can get to it through the main dwelling, that's not separate. This is something that's totally separated from, whether it's a wall or a locked door or whatever, that can be rented out separately as its own standalone apartment.
And that's why he doesn't have to have they wouldn't have to have the conditional.
Correct. There's a lot of houses, as you know, that have, basement bars or, extra kitchens or whatever, but that doesn't in and of itself make it an accessory dwelling unit. It's the separated nature where you can't get to it through the main structure that makes it an accessory dwelling.
Do you understand that aspect of why the difference between the two?
I mean, they have exterior entrances. There's people that don't see another family, that don't go near the other house, even though they have a door into the house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like.
But it's still accessible through the main house. Okay.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify get answers on those.
Mr. Chairman, I think that we noticed too, there are some other houses with a similar roof slope. Isn't there one right across the street?
Yeah, I spotted one right across the street when I was over there.
Heard in the staff report that there weren't any, and I think.
There it is.
Similar, yeah.
Okay.
That was after I went out to take pictures after the
Gotcha.
staff report.
You're good, yeah.
After looking at the aerial, I didn't trust myself.
Yes, I looked at the aerial too, and I'm going to go over there. So, all right. And then I had a question for staff. I was reading in there that in the code that there should be other garages that have that similar height within the neighborhood.
There is, and that is well, it's not similar. This is the one that was approved right behind the subject property with 14-foot walls. So that was the only conditional use I could find in the immediate neighborhood. I know and I do have the applicant submitted some pictures. However, I don't have addresses for those, so I don't know where they are in proximity to the subject property. As you know, in the staff report, it talks about the relevant factors that you can consider, and according to the code, it has to be within 300 feet of the property in order to consider it.
So do you know?
I sent a few other pictures of similar structures in.
Where are those located?
They're a mile away probably. There's one up in the church parking lot, the Mormon Church up on, what is it? Oh, up on Poplar and maybe the 3000 block of Poplar. And it's right on the parking lot of that church. That one on the right there is on I know it's Emmerich Huber's. But he's got 2 conditional use permits on it, and he's one was for an elevator, so he's.
Yeah. I recognize that one.
It wasn't very long ago we talked.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
as probably you guys did too, I went by there today, and that roof line is pretty high pitched, and it looks pretty bad shape too. And again, it was somewhere here that it would only be the old current roof line on that garage. You again said it would only be 2 feet higher, or 2?
I can actually make it that same height.
It's actually going to be
But I just ended up 1 foot higher when I drew it up, so
yeah. Okay, thank you. Now, one other question. 2 parking spaces. Now, where are the 2 parking spaces again?
there's 2 in the alley right now.
Mm-hmm.
And we,
Would be under the garage?
yeah, right up where you're looking right there.
Okay,
We could actually put 3 in. I'm gonna move that fence a little bit.
okay,
And we park 3 in our other driveway
okay.
from the front quite often.
Mr. Chairman, I am looking at the residential code for parking spaces. You can count the spaces inside the garage and the driveway, and even the tandem spaces in the driveway, and I believe they do far exceed what we require.
Yeah, plenty there. Okay.
Thank you.
All righty.
Mr. Chairman, so when you count the spaces inside the garage, do they count as your paved or concrete parking spots?
Yes, but all drivable surfaces, so driveways are supposed to be paved as well. So, and any parking spaces outside the front of the garage need to be paved.
Anybody else?
Yeah, one other thing. Can you clarify if there's a need to have the architecture meet the house as well as the?
The way the code reads, I believe, and it's under your conditions,
I read through that, but
I believe it says similar in appearance to the primary dwelling and the neighborhood dwellings. So again, I would look within 300 feet and say, is this architecture compatible with the surrounding neighborhood in addition to the principal dwelling? So it doesn't have to match the principal dwelling exactly.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, sir. We may have questions later, but appreciate it. Now is the time when we ask for members of the audience to come forward in either support or in opposition to this case. Please remember to state your name and address clearly into the microphone for the record. So anyone wishing to speak in support of this case, please come forward now. Anyone? Nobody in support? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this case, please come forward now.
Okay, I'm here in person because to me this is a very important situation. And one of the reasons why.
Could you state your name and address for us, please?
In our neighborhood.
Could you state your name and address for us, please?
Pardon?
Could you state your name and address for us, please?
Joan Ani. My address is 1533 South Elm Street.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? I've lived in that house for 20 years. I think the zoning of this area was done very carefully. And I'm really quite impressed with the way it was laid out. And it's very clear that R2 zoning was designed for people who are going to have one home on their property, and they're going to raise a family there perhaps. They might have a backyard years ago that could have had a garden or a play area. Or as time went on, garages were in the back. Mine is, it faces the front. So my backyard is totally free. I could have a beautiful 75-foot structure back there and house all kinds of people. But that's not what the zoning is. And honestly, it would ruin it for a lot of people. And after all, we have these homes. These homes are also to house us, but they're also investments. I don't want my investment to tank just because everybody wants to fill up the areas with as much possible housing that they can manage. Anyway, I just wrote a few thoughts about this, and I'll just read them off. I've been looking at the garage located at 1515 South Elm for 20 years. It has looked in bad repair all those years. There was an attempt at one time to add a door to the peak and try to use it for storage or living quarters. At any rate, the structure has always needed repair and paint. I see it from my backyard. It's frankly a wreck. Now Pat wants to put a new plan to approve for his unkempt garage. And that garage has enough room for a car, and then you're in the alley. The alley has been impassable often this year. So anybody who's living there and expects to get their garage out of that alley, they're not going to do it. Well, the new plan includes a structure that would be 25 feet high and include a 660-foot apartment, a new dwelling. He is proposing to put this very tall, odd-looking addition onto the existing garage. Will this be built onto garage footings, or is he going to make house footings for this big structure? And where is he going to find 5 parking places? We're lucky if we get 2 in front of our houses because of the school and school parking. In the alley, well, there might be 2 back there if they're usable. So I think that's a bit of a stretch. The structure itself is overbearing. I thought you all saw those pictures. To me, they're unattractive, and it would be seen by everybody driving by or walking by. That's what they're going to see in our neighborhood, which will have no integrity after this. And I feel it will impact our neighborhood in a detrimental way. The purpose of this particular zoning was done many years ago by smart, thoughtful, insightful, and far-thinking individuals. This neighborhood was designed to offer citizens a specific type of area to build their home and raise a family. The area, however, can be congested And folks have to be mindful of clutter, extra vehicles, and issues that it could affect their neighbors. It does not take much to downgrade a neighborhood. And in this case, everybody would lose. And they would lose value in their investment. R2 is very specific in how the zoning was originally written. If I wanted a twin home or an apartment, I would have shopped in any number of areas in Casper. The more people, the more cars, more parking problems, congestion, dogs, and garbage. I'm trying to hold on to my investment because that's what I want in the end. Please consider this. I think it's critical for our neighborhood, which actually is quite congested now. At one time, I mean, I've lived in other areas in Casper, and I could hardly see what my neighbors were doing. You know, we were kind of far apart, and the houses were more spacious. This is a very kind of controlled area. So I'm just asking for your consideration for the rest of the folks living here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions?
I have one.
Ma'am?
Ma'am, you might have said this, and maybe I didn't get it. Where are you? Are you right close? Are you close to the subject, or?
When I walk out my back door, I can see the existing garage, and
Are you right on the corner of 15th and Elm?
I'm at 1533.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I'm 2 houses from the east,
Yeah, I see
To the
it.
south. Okay.
you know, but I can see it over there. And frankly, Pat has apologized for it. Well, I know there's other things there, like Debbie's fence is there, and there's some bushes. So 25 feet, you bet I'm going to see that. And if you saw the south facing, it's full of all the windows and a deck. That's going to be facing me in my backyard, which will actually afford me no privacy. Any other questions?
I do, if you don't mind. So, and I'm not coming to his defense, I'm thinking if I was in your shoes or if I was living in that area, if I looked at what is built there now and what he's wanting to build there, if you compared the two, which one do you actually prefer? Because in my mind, when I saw the original and I see this a heck of a lot nicer than what's already there. But I'm going off of pictures and I'm going off of this. I don't actually live in that neighborhood, so I'm asking you, which one would you rather continue to see? The one that's already there that he's not gonna mess with, or something like this?
25 feet is quite an imposing structure. I think everybody will see it. It'll give everybody a new thought about that really unique street, Elm Street. They'll look at that and know that something has changed. And frankly, I've seen these in town. I think it was on Washington Street. What they're doing there is just outrageous with all kinds of new structures. It isn't attractive.
So just to clarify his question, though, would you rather see what's there now, or would you like to see something improved
Well,
and nice and?
I've been living with what's there now for 20 years. And if Pat isn't interested in painting it or making it look suitable, I can't really do anything about that.
Sure.
But it's 25 feet that is bothering me.
Height, yeah.
That I will absolutely see.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other
Oh.
questions? All right, thank you.
My name is Debbie Dyer, and I live at 1523 South Elm, so I'm just right next door. And I guess my biggest concern is the congestion of traffic that might possibly, occur then, or does occur, I guess. The alley itself is probably only one car passable. My garage, for the time being, at least since last summer, has not been usable for me because my basement flooded. So I had to take everything out of it and put it in my garage. But when I was parking in my garage, I was beginning to think we might need a stoplight in the alley just because of the cars and things that kind of tended to go back and forth from one end to the other. So I see this as being a congested sort of aspect to having a dwelling actually there. And the people that live on Ash have already built, as you saw a picture, a large garage that they use. So again, and it's right behind Pat's place and so, on the alley. And the alley then has not really been, it's paved, but it's not really upkept all that well because there is another house toward the college that has a garage that had, I don't know if it's still being used, but it has been used as an apartment dwelling as well, with vehicles parked there. And there's another large garage on the same side, I guess you'd say that it's the garage, for the Ash house. And then the house, like I say, toward the end of that alley has had a sinking sort of aspect to it that they've filled several times, and yet it still sinks. When there's snowpack and what have you back there too, then it's kind of been difficult at times because I've lived there since 1990. And snowpack can get pretty bad, and the ice and what have you. The other thing is the school, again, is next to us with 15th Street crossing. Again, that just, to me, is kind of a traffic area. We have kids from Dean Morgan that sometimes would walk through the alley in order to stay off the streets, basically, I guess, and walking home or up toward the college. We have neighbors that oftentimes will walk their dogs, and I pulled Brown there the other day just because of our snow to drop off my garbage. And the lady had her little dog, kind of walking there, and I just happened to mention to her, I said, so you just thought you'd have a peaceful walk, right? Because she had to kind of grab her dog when she saw my pickup, kind of coming through. The other garage that is there, like I say, has often had some people come and help him with his vehicles. He's got, I guess you'd say, antique, perhaps, vehicles. And when they have parked in the alley, you don't have much of a space, really to even get around them. So I can't see, having extra cars parked back there then either. I guess that's my biggest concern, is just the traffic.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Deb? Nope. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else from our huge audience tonight? All right. Seeing nobody else wishing to speak in either support or opposition to this case, the chair hereby closes the public comment portion of the public hearing. The two conditional use permits will be voted on separately. First up for vote will be CUP 373-2023 to allow for wall heights in excess of 12 foot. The chair calls for a motion to approve with conditions, deny, table, or postpone to a date certain. Anyone?
In order for us to have the discussion, I approve the conditional permit for the CUP 373-2023 with the recommended conditions stated by the staff report.
So moved by Commissioner Bates. We have a motion to approve with conditions. Do we have a second?
I'll be out in a second.
seconded by Commissioner Wingeter. Having a motion and a second, it's time for discussion. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman,
Wallace?
Mr. Chairman, would anyone like to amend that motion to include findings
yeah.
and considerations?
Yes.
I have it right. If you're looking for it, I have it right here. Mike, it's right there.
Okay. I wanna amend it with the proper language there,
With what?
with the proper language of what we need to say.
I note that the Planning and Zoning Commission considers all relevant, nope, that's not mine, is it? Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, I can help you with the motion if you would like.
That would be great.
If you would like to move to amend to include 1712-240, sections G and H, that the commission makes findings that the conditional use is consistent with the spirit, purpose, and intent of the title and will not substantially impair the appropriate use of the neighboring property and will serve public need, convenience, and welfare. And number two, that the conditional use is designed to be compatible with the adjacent land uses in the area of its location. And 1712-240H, that the commission has considered the relevant factors of that section.
All right. Do I need to say all of that? Okay.
No, Mr. Chairman.
So,
you
we
just
move-
need to adopt that as stated,
We will adopt that.
first and second on the amendment.
Okay. We move to amend that, adopt the language that our city attorney has stated.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'll continue
Second.
with my,
So we have a motion and a second on the corrected motion. So now that we have a motion on the floor, we're open for discussion. Terry?
Well, Mr. Chairman, driving up and down that street and in the alleyway, on that street where the subject property is, all the way up to the College Road, I think, there's about, on both sides of the street, there's at least 3 two-story houses. And so that's, the height-wise, that sues, to me, that's okay. I mean, because of those 3 two-story houses, that they're actually taller than this proposed garage is gonna be. And then in front of the subject house is 2 trees, 2 tall trees. And you go by there and you look and you won't be able to see, I don't think, I could be wrong, but I don't think you'll be able to see that garage, that 2-story garage that they're proposing in the back.
Okay. Wallace?
Mr. Chairman, before we get to the full discussion, we need to vote on the amendment to see if the amendment passed.
Oh, sorry. I apologize.
Oh, did we vote on it yet?
We're going to vote on the amended motion
Okay.
to include the proper language.
Excuse me, I talked before.
Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion to amend carries.
Thank you. Thank you, Wallace. Okay.
I said my piece.
You said your piece. All right. Any other discussion?
to get clarification that I heard it and I thought I read it, if you can, Mr. Craig, that there is supposed to be other dwellings the same way within 300 feet? Is that what I heard?
Let me read it right out of the code, so I don't.
Thank you.
get this wrong. So section 1712-240H, in making its findings, the commission shall consider any relevant factors, including but not limited to the following. And letter E is the commission shall consider the location of the use with respect to the same or similar uses within a 300-foot radius of the perimeter of the described property. And basically, to paraphrase it, they're looking for compatibility. They want something that's going to fit into the neighborhood.
Now, as Commissioner Winger pointed out, that there are houses that are of that size or bigger. Would that be considered as part of the compatibility?
That's for the commission to decide. I would just note that there's no height limitation on principal structures. There is on accessory dwellings, and whatever the reason was for that requirement being added to the code, the council at that time, which I believe was in the late 90s, felt that oversized structures were a detriment to the neighborhood. So, but it's your purview to decide whether existing structures includes primary dwellings and or accessory dwellings.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to get my facts on that straight. I'm tossed on this, to be honest with everybody. As we just found out that for this structure, there are another structure other than the one, and that is technically a actual garage. To my knowledge, it's not a mother suite or anything of that. So if you go off of what that said, we don't have anything to base it other than actual structure places that are set up that way. So I'm kind of, I go with that one. I'm kind of leaning, or I look at that and I consider that. However, if it improves a property, and I think this would actually improve that property, and it won't be a take away from anybody else's property, honestly. If it's for a mother-in-law, if it's to help out family, the fact that he has to live there, he has to be in the dwelling area, I'm not opposed to ever helping somebody or offering something like that. I think, and then I do consider what Terry said. One, the tree, you won't see it from the street. Two, you have homes built that size. I don't think it's gonna make it any worse. So that's my conflict on both sides, I guess.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
does this go to the city council for a final approval?
No.
Mr. Chairman, no. The Planning Commission is the last stop.
Okay. Ladies, I just want you to know it's tough being in this position. I respect your view, but you just can't please everybody. And I think you're going to be seeing more and more of these around the city, these garages with the living quarters on top, because of the fact that a nursing home, like Mr. Hughes was saying, a nursing home is almost $10,000 a month anymore. Almost. I don't know the exact amount, but I respect your opinions, but you just can't please everybody. I'm so.
I hate to be jealous because I want to turn my garage into one too. Well, it's a precedent. We're going to set a precedent.
Okay.
You're going to see them all over town. And we're
Yep.
not as big as Michigan or,
Okay.
Eastern,
Any other
Yeah,
discussion?
I have a comment. I also drove down that alley today, and I thought it was extremely congested. And my thought is, just because there are other buildings there that are high, adding one more doesn't make it right when the original zoning really didn't take that into account.
And I'd add, I agree, it's really congested over there, but I kind of looked through that and thought possibly the location where they are at the end of the alley might not be as bad going through that area, just because they'll be able to exit right out onto 15th. They won't be more than likely a lot of traffic added going up that entire alley from my point of view, but.
Okay. Any other discussion? All right. There being no further discussion, we'll now vote on the motion, which is to approve the conditional use permit for CUP 373-2023 with the recommended conditions stated in the staff report with the amended language that we added in there.
This is for the height only.
This is for the height, the wall height only. So please cast your votes. Please record the votes.
With 1 vote against and 5 votes for, the motion carries.
Thank you. Now will be a vote for CUP 351-2023 to allow the detached garage to be converted into an accessory dwelling unit. The chair calls for a motion to approve, deny, table, or postpone to a date certain. Going once. You want to make a motion?
I move to deny the conditional use permit for CUP 351-2023 because it does not meet the findings necessary for approval under section 17-12-240G.
We have a motion to deny, moved by Commissioner Plocek. Do we have a second? With no second? Do we?
Mr. Chairman, with no second, the motion fails.
Okay. With no second, the motion fails. Do we have a motion, another motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the accessory dwelling unit under CUP 351-2023.
We have a motion to approve, so moved by Commissioner Joe.
With the conditional use permits, as well as the conditional use of consistent of spirit, purpose, and intent of this title will be substantially
Those are-
impaired. What's that?
Do we need those on this one as well?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Appropriate use of neighbor property and will serve the public need, convenience, and welfare. And number 2, the conditional use is designed to be compatible with adjacent land use and the area of its location.
With the condition mentioned in the staff report or without?
With
With the condition.
the condition of the staff report, please.
Okay. Thank you for, so we have a motion to approve. Commissioner Bates. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. We have a second by Commissioner Wingeter. Having a motion and a second, is there any discussion? This is the one to make it a second dwelling unit. Any discussion?
I thought I seconded.
Okay, with there being no further discussion, we'll now vote on the motion, which is to approve the conditional use permit to allow the CUP 351-2023 to allow the detached garage to be converted into an accessory dwelling unit. Please cast your votes. Please record the vote.
With 1 vote against and 5 votes for, the motion carries.
Randy. Your conditional use permits have been approved. Would staff please advise the applicants of the next steps?
Mr. Chairman, the staff will put together findings of fact, which will need to be signed by the applicant. And I would mention that there is a appeal process in the code. I'm not going to go through the specifics of that, but once the document has been executed, then there's a short window there for anyone aggrieved by the decision to appeal it.
Thank you, staff. This concludes our public hearings for this evening. The next item on the agenda this evening is special issues. If I may, I'm going to excuse Commissioner Eskew and Commissioner Wingeter. They both have,
Should I be excused?
you can be excused.
I have another appointment.
They have other appointments this evening. Commissioner Eskew's daughter is getting an award, so hopefully he can get up there before she receives it. Tell her congratulations from us. Special issues, there are none listed on the agenda for this month, so we will move on to communications. Chair calls for any communications from the commission. Commissioner Bates, anything?
Nick?
Thank you for coming.
Since you are planning and what have you. No, it is Elm Street, too, that back in the 90, whatever it was, they had resurfaced that whole street.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, and it is, again, in the wintertime, very difficult, to navigate away from the curbs. And it's just enough of a grade up toward the college that a lot of times when cars are coming that way, they have to back into 15th because they can't get up.
Can't get up that little grade, yeah.
There's
There's so many spots like that in Casper.
kind of in there too by one of the houses
Yeah.
on Elm Street. So I just wondered, are they planning on resurfacing it again anytime?
I
Where they could
don't
take
know.
that crown out?
Good question. We'll ask.
I hope you'll all come by and see how nice it looks right now.
I was there today.
You're welcome
I love that
to go to my
neighborhood.
anytime. I see my lovely yard, which I really don't want to mess up with some structure and have another family move in that close to me. But it's going to be okay for the Cusacks. They want to do that.
Thank you, ladies. Have a good evening. Commissioner Bates.
Okay, so I read the minutes from the Historical Preservation Commission, so I just wanted to say that from reading it, that Connie Hall was nominated as the new chair. Am I correct on that?
Yes.
So I just wanted to say congrats to Miss Connie on that there. And I hope Mr. Paul will consider as the vice chair.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a couple of good meetings. I missed this past meeting because I had a doctor appointment that ran longer than I should have. Anybody else? Nothing? All right. Council liaison is not here. It fell upon the mayor this month and he didn't show up. No cookies for him. Any communications from Historic Preservation or Old Yellowstone District? Historic Preservation, we're going to be focusing on Sherry's Place 100th year anniversary in May, which is going to be fantastic. They got a lot of cool plans for that, so it's going to be fun. Old Yellowstone District, we've got a lot going on there as well with summer coming up. We're going to be doing flower planting and some cleanup. Got some road construction continuing on towards Poplar Street. Poplar Street construction will be going on from YDOT, so a lot going on down there as well. So.
When I saw that the Historical Preservation is going to be visiting the old Casper Army Base Hospital, I think that'd be interesting to go see
Yes.
for them. I think that's really cool. So,
Absolutely. Got a lot of cool history in Casper, Wyoming. So, any other communications from anybody? Staff? Nothing? You're boring to date? All right, fantastic. Final item on the agenda for this evening is adjournment. Next meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission is scheduled for Thursday, May 11th, 2023 at 6 p.m. There being no further business to conduct, the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
So moved by Commissioner Plowcheck, seconded by Commissioner Bates. Any discussion? If so, you can stay here. Please cast your vote. Please record the vote.
With all members voting aye, the motion carries.
Meeting adjourned at 7:06 PM. Thank y'all.
Thank you.